And at long last, we were properly underwater. Life on a scuba liveaboard tends to be a bit exhausting, even in the warm water, easier climbs like Palau. But despite that, I always like to get up a bit earlier than everybody else. This both gives me some time to drink some coffee, and I just really enjoy getting some quiet time on the boat before the rest of the guests and crew start stirring. This is also generally when I make my notes for the previous day and try and organize our footage so it's ready as it can be for later. Because generally at night, after diving all day, I'm just too exhausted to do anything. The boat schedule was generally dictated by this board in the camera area. A 7 a.m. dive time meant get on the deck and start pulling on neoprene around 6:45 a.m., meaning I had until about 6:30 a.m. until I needed to head back to the room and get serious about getting ready. Okay, first big day of diving. We have 5 dives today. The funny thing is when we saw 5 dives, I actually assumed like that wasn't going to be accurate. Like that's what they say on the website, but when you get out here, no. But they're saying it's 5 dives every day except the first and the last, so we'll see. They did fit in 2 yesterday. The dives kicked off 15 minutes before the posted time when one of the guides would yell out, "Divers, time to get ready," which on a small boat like this was audible pretty much everywhere. That was our cue to change into whatever base layers we had and head for the back deck. In my case, that was a rash guard and boxer brief, while in Jen's case, she was wearing a bikini. On the deck, we threw on our 3mm shorty wetsuits because we're getting wimpy these days and the 83-degree water was enough to make us uncomfortable, booties, a dive computer, and grab our lights and GoPro. We then loaded onto the chase boat where our BCDs, regulators, and fins were waiting next to already filled tanks. We'd then verify our nitrox mix, sign off on the tank, and then get things set up and ready to go. So basically, we spent a lot more time on the chase boat versus the main boat this trip compared with our others. Our first dive was Ulong Channel, and it was a hook dive. The idea is we'd enter along a wall, swim down to a corner, hook into the rock, and then see the shark action.
That's the island. And we're diving on Ulong Channel.
Fortunately, we could tell right away we were going to have better water conditions. We had been told that today we'd be divided into 2 groups of 8 instead of one big group of 16 like yesterday. That had been clarified at dinner because several of us weren't happy with how the check dives had been run, but somehow we ended up with 1 group of 10 and 1 group of 6, with us being in the bigger group. Still, it was an improvement over yesterday. To our great relief, the visibility was far improved today. The muck in the water during the check dives had given us flashbacks to Raja, where visibility had never been great due to all the plankton and such in the water, but Palau had a reputation for massive visibility. When we reached the corner, we hooked into the rock with our reef hooks and spent the next 20 minutes or so watching the show. The main attraction was, of course, sharks, which like to swim back and forth in the current, basically sleeping. It's really rare to see them actually waking up and going after anything when we're out here. Eventually, the guide signaled us that it was time to unhook, and we started a shotgun-style drift along the channel with the current. These are always a lot of fun, and Jen and I love doing these style dives, though again, the larger group size made it a bit distracting. Somehow, despite being in the same current, you just never seem to move at the same pace as the people right ahead or right behind you, so it can take some work to stay out of everybody's way, but at the same time, not lose sight of the group. And sure enough, with a group this big, we did end up getting separated for a good while there in the middle, but it all worked out in the end. This was where we started to notice just how amazing the coral variety was and how healthy everything looked. Everything from the massive corals like this cabbage down to the smaller colonies just seemed to be flourishing. Nothing was bleached, and we were also seeing a good number of fish. Eventually, we ended up in an area that was more protected from the current. We were able to do our safety stop and get back on the chase boat. Back on the boat, it was breakfast time, and then we only had 20 or 30 minutes to ourselves until it was time to basically do it all again.
So that dive was absolutely amazing. The visibility was really good, really clear water. There were about 100 sharks. We got to hang out at the mouth of the channel watching all the sharks come by approximately. Big clouds of fish doing the movements. In and out and swirling.
Also, Matt found me 2 different sets of anemone fish.
This next dive should be another really interesting one. It's a tunnel, and they told us to bring our flashlights.
As one does in a tunnel. The next dive was Siaes Tunnel, which is an opening in the rock wall down around 100 feet. It then runs for about 300 feet horizontal with a few openings along the way.
Okay, and then regroup, and then swim down.
This site was similar to a lot of the dive sites we'd be doing out in Palau over the next week. The chase boat tied up near the edge of a big wall, and we'd drop down the side in just crystal clear blue water. Sometimes we'd be drifting along to get to a corner to hook in, and other times we'd just be traveling along the wall. And then the most memorable sites usually involve some sort of cave or tunnel opening like this to spice things up. As always, the low-light performance of the GoPro this deep gets a little bit iffy, especially trying to capture any sort of big distances. There is a reason why most professional scuba footage is all of things up close and well lit. So unfortunately the video could capture it better, but it was really cool being there in person. Though once again, the guides didn't do the best job of keeping the two groups separated, so there was a distracting amount going on at times, especially at the far end of the tunnel. Once we exited the tunnel at the far end, the wall continued to drop down to 200 plus feet below us. And as always, Jen just loves being suspended over a big drop like that, since it really does give you the sense of flying. You know, unless you're not comfortable with your buoyancy. I also really enjoy that sense of flying, but I'm just less of a fan of wall dives, particularly with big groups like this. Once again, it can just be kind of a nightmare getting in and out between people to see some little cool critter the guide is trying to point out, so I usually just hang out forward or back and don't worry too much about trying to see everything. Once we were back, rinsed off, and changed into dryish clothes, they served us a buffet lunch despite the fact we'd just eaten breakfast after the first dive. Then we had another 20 or 30 minutes, and it was time to go again. Oh wow, you're clothed. We did really enjoy watching the sharks cruising around the boat in the super blue clear water. These are blacktip reef sharks, and they actually sleep like this, swimming around in a trance. If you look really close, you can see there's a small yellow fish hanging out right in front of the shark's mouth. They're actually juvenile golden trevally, sometimes confused with pilot fish, since they both do that kind of pilot fish behavior. They basically hang out close to the sharks for protection and food. And of course, before long, it was time to get ready and get back on the chase boat.
Okay, when see a good current, if they hook, we hook too. What we're gonna do is swim behind and look for our spot to hook.
Release their hooks.
Yes.
You got dry cuddling.
Careful, they might have knives too.
This was another hook dive, and as the briefing mentioned, we had another group who was there ahead of us. We saw this same group a couple of different times, and the interesting thing was the guide had side mount tanks and seemed to be double fisting cameras, which you're not supposed to do as a guide. Once you get the hang of it, hooking in like this is a ton of fun since it takes all the stress away from a current dive. You don't have to worry about getting swept away or spending so much energy fighting against the current that you burn through all your air too fast. Unfortunately, there wasn't quite as much to see on this dive versus our first one, but we still did see fish and sharks. This time we didn't have a channel to ride up like Ulong, but instead just drifted back and enjoyed the reef further back from the wall. Between dives 3 and 4, we just had a quick snack, another 20 or so minutes to drink some water and get sorted, and then we were off again. This time we were diving Ulong Sandbar, and they said we'd be doing it as dive 4 in the daylight, and then again as a night dive. The sandbar part of the name seemed to come from this giant patch of white sand that we spent most of the time exploring. In addition to all her usual favorite underwater critters, Jen was taking great joy in the variety of sea cucumbers we kept finding. Meanwhile, I kept flashing her the hand signals to inquire if she'd checked them for butthole crabs, which is actually a real thing, look it up, but we've never seen one outside of reef creature ID books. Kidding aside, the sea cucumbers are really striking looking, and there is a good variety out here. I am pretty much happy anytime I'm not stuck on a wall, so I was enjoying myself the entire time, but I think the highlight for most people was this manta that came cruising by in the middle of the dive. We also saw this cool little bat ray that I thought was going to come right over to me and say hello, but unfortunately somebody spooked him. here's Taters, hard at work on a break, identifying all the sea cucumbers. She's moved on from clownfish to sea cucumbers now, apparently. This felt like the longest break of the day, considering we had to wait for the sun to go down.
Please, don't turn on your light.
This dive was actually a lot more enjoyable for us just because we weren't on a wall and could spread out a bit more, even if we didn't see anything too overly special. But that's just the downside of having been to Komodo and Raja Ampat. Night dives often just struggle to compare with the really awesome muck dives there. This guy was probably the coolest thing we saw the entire dive. He's called a ghost pipefish, and they blend in so well you feel really, really lucky when you actually find one. I'm not actually sure what these guys were. I think it's some sort of a cowrie, but they just looked really odd with the kind of feathery protrusions coming off of them. All in all, it was a good dive, just not a great dive, but hey, getting into the water 5 times a day is a pretty good day all around. And that was just an all-around fun day. We're kind of settled in here. The dives, even in current, were just a ton of fun. And we finally got good visibility and a good amount of fish, so we're really looking forward to the next 8 or so days. Oh yeah, that's
This next dive should be a... Whoa, stop it.